Now the recording is on. Thanks for reminding me. Hari Om, Hari Om. Let's talk a bit about practicing. Why should we do at all practice? Advaita tells us, you are that, there is nothing but that. Then why should we practice? It's all there. Many times I have told to you, what we are looking for is not somewhere out there at the end of a long journey. It's here, it's now, it's that which makes the experience possible. Then why should we practice? Why should we meditate? Why should we make any effort to be conscious in the present? It doesn't change anything with the essence of what you are. You are what you are. Nothing is going to change that. Neither for the worse nor for the better. On our conscious experience, we have estranged ourselves from them. That natural being conscious of the essence, functioning from that level, that everything spontaneously comes out of the source. Once the mind is established, while growing up, we start to have patterns without being aware that we are doing that, and have the tendency to keep on repeating them on and on and on, over and over, without recognizing what we are doing, but producing that experience, that feeling that we are separate, that we are estranged, that we have to struggle for our petty little self against the whole universe. Practicing gives insight. Practicing helps us to become aware what we are doing. If we start to consciously have an honest look at ourselves, then we become aware, oh, it's all this mental pattern that create all these tensions. Our way of acting, our way of reacting to situations, our way of worrying about the past or the future, our way of worrying about our position in society. All this gives that sense of estrangement, that sense of separation that creates pain, that creates suffering. Practicing helps us to become aware what we are doing. Once we are aware what's going on, we can take steps to let go of it and come back to our normal, natural, happy state. Now, how should we practice? That's the difficulty for the mind to accept. We need not create anything with practice. We need not reach anything with practice. And yet it makes sense to practice. Why? What is all this? practice is just a crutch for the mind to make it easier to become more conscious. If we have every day some time when we are doing nothing else, but consciously being in the present, doing some exercise, practicing some technique, meditating silently, then we become more aware also all the time when we are usually busy in society, with our friends, with other people whom we may like or not like. And if that awareness is increasing, then we become aware how much we are pushed by the old patterns. Now, people who go on the way, they are often on the lookout. What is the trick that is going to do the thing? I just have to find the proper trick. Once I have found the proper trick, then I can do that and things will go smoothly, wonderful. But there is no such magical trick. It's not that one particular practice is the magic that will let go of all that stuff. Sorry. Oh. It could be that I have to quickly take this. I'm very sorry. Hello. I think I quickly have to go down. I come immediately back. I'm sorry about that. Somehow things come together sometimes like this. Okay. We have to know when we practice that practice is not going to create reality. It's not going to bring about what we usually think it should do. Practice helps us to become self-aware. And in that self-awareness, we become aware of what is preventing us from being natural. And then we can let go of what is standing in the way to be in our own natural, joyous, peaceful state. Once we come back to that, the experience of that will unfold all by itself. Still, it will be beneficial if we spend every day some time not doing anything else, but it will all become playful. Instead of a struggle to get somewhere, it all becomes play. Now, in this context, I will answer to a question from Mari. She asked about Ramana Maharshi. He has been pointing out repeatedly, it's very beneficial to be aware of the moment when we wake up before we start thinking. Of course, it is very beneficial to be aware of that state when we are not thinking. Now she asked, how can we do that? Because I'm waking up and then the thoughts start and then I'm becoming aware. How can I be aware before that? Now remember, this is just one other help, one other trick. It is not necessarily the one thing that helps you very much, but if we want to try to do that, to wake up consciously before the thoughts start, being aware of that state of simply being, we have to go to sleep with that sankalpa, with that intent that when I wake up, I want to be aware without thinking. Maybe we have to do that for some time, going to sleep with that intent, and then it may start to happen that when you wake up, you are simply aware. Here, now, timeless, spaceless. Before the thoughts start their ritual of thinking about the day before, of thinking about the day to come, of thinking about the role we have to play and all that involves it. It is a very beneficial state, but not simply in the morning when we wake up. Also, every time you really bring the attention to the present and let go, for a moment you may just be there without a thought. This is the same state. And it is very beneficial to consciously come back into that state again and again until it starts to happen spontaneously, effortlessly. Actually, everybody is diving back into that all the time, during their daytime, during their nighttime. It simply is happening so fast that people are not aware that it is coming. That we are diving into that, but without always drawing the energy from that source, people couldn't function at all. But if we start to do that consciously, then there is an intensity to it, to the experience that usually people who are not practicing cannot ever be aware of. Oh my God. Today is the day. I'm so sorry. So don't, if you feel attracted, Marie, to go for that more, then go to sleep with the intent to be conscious when you wake up. Conscious without thinking. But simply because you have heard that it's a good thing, and if it's not your thing, then never mind. Come to that state in one way or another as many times in your daytime as you can. It is not this particular trick or any other trick. It is the sincerity with which we go about it that matters. If we sincerely put that intent into our daily life, that we want to be conscious, that we don't want to spend our time half asleep, then we find ways. And we can start right away when we wake up in the morning. Just be conscious there, without thinking. And in order to have that alertness, it's helpful to go to sleep with that thought, I want to wake up like this. But then when you get up, continue with that intent. I don't want to spend my day half unconscious. Then you have your time where you can practice. You put your undivided attention, but then you come out of your practice time and have that intent also for your waking state, not only for when you are waking up in the morning, but you want to remember to connect. And connect as often as you can, consciously, with yourself, with the divine, with the essence, and relax. This is the point of practice. To become more conscious, to make it easier, to give a momentum that we become aware how much effort we are making unconsciously to prevent us from being natural, from being naturally at peace, at ease, happy, joyous, full of life force and creativity. All right. Sorry for the disturbances. I hope they don't come again. So I'm asking you, is there anyone who would like to talk? You're welcome to come in. Moksha, I can see you, but I cannot hear you. I still don't hear anything. I don't know, can anybody else, can you hear Moksha? I don't hear anything from him. No. Okay, I guess Moksha has to just figure out his part and then he will come back. Is there anybody else who would like to come in?
Hello.
Hello. Ah.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello, Leora. Hi.
Hi. And thank you for that. It was good to hear again. And I want to ask about deceivement, self-deceivement, and about reasoning.
About?
Reasoning, or like anything that happens, right away there's a because after it. Like I'm explaining myself why and how, I guess, in order to be in a safe place, understanding the reality somehow. It's a habit. And I actually see also my grandson is only 5 years old. And every time something happening, right away he says, right, because, and then he has an explanation. He's only 5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've noticed it's quite a habit for me anyway.
Yeah.
And I also realized, like this week, when looking into this habit, that there's a lot of self-deceivement in the explanation, because there's so much I don't know. Even if the facts seem quite logical and real, let's say something happened, and so still it feels like that the explanation is not only unnecessary, but the mind fabricates an explanation in order to feel safe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Please, your reflection about it.
Yeah, actually, the very first thing you had said, can you want to know about before you talked about the explanation? I didn't understand the word you said.
About self-deceivement, because we seem to live most, at least me, I feel I seem to live most of my life in lying to myself. Not because I'm bad or stupid, but it's like the mind has this habit to lie all the time, to make up stories, to fabricate
Right.
the reality, because the reality is not always so great.
You can say
statements nowadays, yeah.
Right, you can say that. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, why should we be dishonest to ourselves or to anyone? We grew up being pushed, coerced, educated to create a self-image. Instead of simply being with the self, then we create that self-image, and that image becomes more and more important. And once we are having that self-image and identifying with it, we have to defend it. And justify it. And there people start to tell stories to themselves and others, in order to keep that self-image intact for themselves, and trying to impose an image to others which may not be correct at all. Because the identification is there, I am this image. And then, of course, then I have to keep it whole and as nice and beautiful as possible. And I can't bear it that it's being criticized, or the thought that I'm not good enough, or that I have not done properly. And so people start to talk and justify and create stories and tell lies to themselves. And the other part of the question, why should we always give explanations for what is happening? It goes in the same chapter, that somehow identifying with that self-image, it seems that we have to justify all the time our actions, our very being here, and giving explanations about it in order to keep up that wrong reality of the imagery, of my image, your image, and the separation between all that. If we stop identifying with that self-image and see, okay, this is a role I'm playing in this theater, but I'm not that. I'm giving the life to that image, but I'm not that image. It's just a role, and it's not so important. Then this compulsion, both for lying to oneself and also just to explain all the time, why am I doing this, why am I doing that, disappears. Sometimes when people ask, you still may, just for the peace of the situation, give explanations, but many times you may not feel like explaining anything. You just go with the flow from moment to moment, without, not even to yourself, not having always like, usually people's mind is like a reporter in a sports event. So now doing this, now doing that, and this is happening, and that fellow is coming, and talking about everything that one is doing and experiencing. And if that identification with the self-image disappears and you simply are, then that whole blah, 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 blah is not more necessary.
But you know, this is quite a scary place to be without all these habits, to let go all these habits and to let go of having to keep yourself whole. And you know, I feel how scary it can be just to be without myself and my story. On the other hand, what I feel is that all these explanations between me and the rest also create separation. Because it's always I explain, and he did to me, and she did, and I said, so she would react to what I said, and all this ongoing report, as you said. I know for me, I know where I am. I know I'm letting go of this slowly.
Yeah.
This habit, really, I'm letting go. In many cases, I say, yeah, maybe she was hurt, but I'm not going to go back. It happened an hour before. Maybe she was hurt before. Yeah, sometimes I apologize, of course, as you said, but yeah. But then I often also feel that it's strange for me to live without explaining and holding on to myself, to my views, to I want, I feel, I'm right, I'm wrong. Whatever.
Yeah. Right. We have been defining ourselves like that for such a long time that it seems to be scary to live without doing that. Like then suddenly, what can you hold on to if there is not,
right.
if there is not more that structure, that habitual structure? Exactly. That habitual structure has been helpful in order to grow up and to develop in a certain way, but that those helpful bars to hold on to have become a prison and prevent us to proceed. It's because of the identification with it that it seems to be scary if we don't do it, because there is absolutely nothing scary about it. To be at ease and peace in yourself is absolutely not scary. It's just in the mind we imagine, okay, I'm like this, I'm like that, and I have to think about it all the time and judge all the time whether it's right or wrong, and do this in order to feel familiar and safe. And then from that mental perspective, it sounds scary if we don't do that. Then what is there to hold on to? But if we stop doing that, we become aware, oh my God, it's so much easier to exist. So the fear is from the mind. not being in control anymore. That, if that fear comes, then let the fear come and watch also the fear and don't get identified with the fear. Then let the fear come, experience the fear, see what it is doing to your experience right now, and relax also that fear.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
Werner, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Moksha.
Oh, wow, it worked.
Right.
Funny that sometimes, I don't know, crazy. Hello, Werner. I have it was funny that you start to speak about this, if we wake up to experience this state, because I'm looking often in the morning if I wake up, oh, what starts here?
Yes.
And I remember you talk always about, or sometimes about, it is prior to everything.
Yes.
And if I look, even if I'm sitting here, there is something, there is a picture coming, a feeling coming, blah, blah, blah. But there is something prior to that.
Yes.
And this is all these ideas and images. There is something prior, right?
Right.
No, I'm not anything of this.
No, it is all an expression of you, but you are not that.
And to become aware, oh, also there's something prior of this feeling. This is amazing.
This is amazing.
We cannot grab this prior. We cannot grab it.
No, we try to grab it with the mind, and of course it's not possible, for it's prior to the mind. The mind is simply the flow of the thoughts, built on the prana. But prior to that is that source, that pure consciousness, that pure prana, that pure love, that which you touch spontaneously, immediately, when you say I. Prior to any thought or feeling about it, as soon as we start to think about it, then we start a story. I'm like this, I'm like that, and all my past and the future of my relationships and all the problems and all the achievements. But when you just say I, immediately you are with that most familiar sense of being. But you cannot grab it in the sense that you cannot understand it, you cannot define it, or all definitions are always simply a pointer. It's never grabbing it. It can't be grabbed.
Can also not feel, it is also not a feeling.
No, it's not a feeling. I'm often saying that feeling of being, because I don't have a better word, but it's not a feeling like any other feeling.
Yes.
Right.
You cannot get it, no?
No, cannot
And
put
the
it.
mind, I was hearing that in Tibet, they have not the word I. They don't have the word I, they have grabbing to an I. And that, I found it very beautiful to hear it, because it feels like this. There is something always wants to understand it and grab it.
Yeah.
But I cannot get it. It is, but if you look, it is prior, it is always there, but we are so used to, I want to grab it. I want to understand it. I want to feel it. It's not possible.
Right.
Still, it is. Yeah, what to say about it? It's amazing, huh?
It's that which makes this whole crazy story possible. Without that, absolutely nothing is. There is no experience, there is no feeling, there is no thoughts, there is no emotion, there's simply nothing.
It's not understandable, right?
Not understandable. All the teachings about that are just pointers. It's good to be always aware of that no teaching ever is defining reality. It's just pointing, and if we take the teaching in that way and open up to where the teaching is coming from, then the teaching can be a bridge, can be very helpful. But if we think, because I have heard certain words put together, I know the truth, then we are again stuck on the intellectual level, and we can fight with each other who knows the truth better.
Deeper, better, higher, whatever.
Yes.
It is, I see this identification because there is this spontaneously prior thing, let's say.
Yes.
And then is directly a feeling or a thought coming.
Yes.
Something is coming, image, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I look at it, I see, oh no, this is not what I am. It is before that, but there comes immediately another. Look here.
Yeah, right.
Amazing. And nothing there's not an image. Oh yeah, this is the image. That's it. No, it is prior to that. You become crazy. You can become crazy of it, right?
Yes.
The mind wants to catch it.
If you insist on wanting to understand, then you get more and more frustrated. Eh? Or you start to delude yourself and say, okay, now I understood. Now I know. Like many people are doing, that they go deeper, they learn, they hear, they listen, and then they have a certain inkling and say, no, now I know, I understand. We can understand a lot of useful things. When we look at our functioning, when we look at our patterns, then when we understand the functioning of them better, that understanding helps us to let go. We can understand how we can detach from things and turn in the right directions and get subtler and subtler about it. This understanding is very helpful. It's good understanding, but then there comes the moment where that mind has to give up and capitulate and say, okay, that's as far as I can go. And there you can just keep quiet.
It feels always like Amma was saying, remember, you are always a beginner. And it feels like that.
Right.
If I see it, I thought, then it comes up, you didn't know anything at all.
Yeah.
But that happens all the time. Every time I'm sitting, you didn't understand anything. And it's not frustrating. It is just beautiful.
Right. That hanging on to knowledge and wanting to understand is also just to feel safe. To feel safe in our structure. And then we turn that structure away from material things and from worldly things and become spiritual, but still it's hanging on to concepts, hanging on to knowledge, hanging on to which teacher said what and all that stuff. And it's still creating the structure of the me who wants something.
Security, you're right, huh?
Security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. To hold on to nothing, it's a little bit unusual.
Right. That's what Leora just said before. It's frightening not to hold on, to think, to exist without all this pattern all the time in the mind, saying this is good, this is bad, and this is right, this is wrong, and having with that a sense of understanding and being on top, in control of the situation.
Right, on top. So nice that you started about it and thought, this was just what's happening with, I was busy with it in the morning, and it's often so fitting if you start talking or people start talking, that it seems that there is some kind of current where it all fits. It's beautiful.
Somehow the universe arranges that it always fits somehow.
That is what you call the magic show, right?
Yes, the whole thing is a magic show.
Yeah. Thank you, Werner. Hari Om.
You're welcome. Hari Om. Hari Om. Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Please come. Yes, the thing of security is strong. But of course, who wants to be secure? That essential being that you are doesn't need to feel secure, because there is no danger for that. So who wants to be secure? Of course, it's that created me, that I, as a person, that is separate from the rest of existence, and because of that has to somehow struggle to keep intact, to feel secure. And for that it is frightening to think, to exist without always these strategies to create the security, to keep the security, to protect from somehow being undone. But somehow or other we have to learn not more to trust into that. Understanding is perfectly well on its own level. I mean, it's beautiful, the intellect, as an instrument on its own level, as an instrument that the self can express itself in a beautiful way, in meaningful talk, in poetry, in art. It is beautiful as a possibility to express the self on its own level. It should be a tool that is being used when it's appropriate, and that we just put aside where it's not appropriate. Somehow that has sneaked in, that this tool is being used all the time, that we can't stop it. And we think without that, our world breaks together. And so the mind goes on trying to grab, trying to understand, trying by doing so to create the illusion of being in control, of being on top of whatever is happening, feeling secure because why? I understood, I understand what's going on. Let's be reasonable where it's appropriate. We don't have to become fools. We don't have to become idiots if we want to be free. Let's use the practical common sense where it's appropriate. On the practical level, it makes sense to do that which makes sense and not to do that which is creating pain, which creates disturbance, unnecessary disturbance. So let's use the intellect where it's appropriate, but not for self-definition. Just find a way. It's still the mind, from the mind, where the attention is caught, there we get the impulse to look in the right direction. Then we just have to be quiet, consciously conscious, being aware of the sense of presence, which I'm simply indicating with these words. No word is ever going to define it. No way that you can understand what you are. You are what you are. You're not understanding, you're inner standing. You're right in the middle of it. This is so difficult for the mind, for humans to accept, that we have to use the intellect to become aware at all. We can get out of that trap where we are functioning all the time, to learn to look in the right direction, and then we have to let go of the intellect and not keep on trying to think it better out, think it better out. I mean, nothing wrong with thinking. But always be aware, okay, use the thinking to understand the direction. Use the thinking to understand how much the attention is caught up into unnecessary things and let them go. But then that capacity to think, to form consciousness into thoughts, also we can let go and learn to simply be. And what I talked in the beginning is just to give us the opportunities to do that more consciously. If we practice, if we have every day some time where we practice, then it's easier to look in the right direction, and it's more likely that spontaneously it just sometimes happens, that you just are. Without continuously creating that mental noise and trying to define what is happening. Not sitting there and thinking, oh, this is a good state, how can I explain it to others? But simply be. Not understandable, and yet so totally simple. That which is first, that without which nothing is happening. That which is the base out of which all this experience, all this world, all this creation is coming. It's yourself, it's God, it's the essence. You're never apart from it. We can never understand it. You are it. There's nothing to be understood. The understanding is about the whole show, about the expressions of that, not about the essence. All right, I'm inviting again. Is there somebody who would like to say something? You're welcome.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Daniel. Oh, you're out in the snow.
Yes, I'm a little bit working outside, but I think if nobody asking, I want to ask something.
Yeah.
I started reading a book of Somerset Maugham about spiritual seeker. I'm not sure how to translate the name of the book, but name of the seeker was Larry. It was it's very famous book and even movie about it.
Yeah, I
Do you understand what I'm?
I think the English title is The Razor's Blade or something like this.
Yeah. Yes, and this book inspired me very much about inspiration to spiritual path. How Larry, he was searching here and there, and somehow he come to India. And on these descriptions, it's very similar as if he come to Tiruvannamalai to Ravana Maharshi.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Maybe Somerset Maugham himself visit Tiruvannamalai.
He did visit Tiruvannamalai, yes.
So this book is about his own experience on spiritual path.
I would say his book is an inspiration. It's not an autobiographic book, but it's an inspiration that came out of his looking, his searching, and certainly also from his visit in Tiruvannamalai. He met Ramana Maharshi. But then after that, it has also been recorded as if he had a big enlightenment experience, which after that he himself said this was completely exaggerated. So he experienced something, but it was not that it was the big total breakthrough that after that people were talking about. But he certainly got inspired by coming here, meeting Ramana Maharshi, and from that inspiration as an artist, he created that story about that man.
Yeah, it's very nice. And I remember myself when I was young, I was also crazy about spirituality. I was trying to go and drop the things which are not helpful. So, and I feel myself I'm not so sincere as I was when I was young. Now I read in many books and I practice in different path. I try in different path and I meditating. But I understand it's very long and very hard way. A lot of pain, a lot of boring. So, and I'm looking for how to get such sincerity as before, because somehow it's finished, not completely, but not so much effort as before I can give to it. So, any ideas from you? to become again?
Well, I think you can start with stop to judge yourself that you are not as serious as you were before. Before you thought you have to get somewhere by making effort. And that you are more relaxed about the whole story does not mean that you are less sincere about it. But somehow you have also, something in you has also accepted it's not by way of effort that you really become aware of yourself. The effort is all right. The effort to become aware how much effort we make to prevent us, but that is mainly the effort that is needed to remind ourselves and then to connect. And then it's more a matter of relaxing, of letting go. And many times, myself included, for long time, seekers make effort with the idea I have to reach something. And the more effort I'm making, the faster I'm reaching that. And it can be helpful, not for everybody, but it can be helpful to go about like this, because in this way, it keeps an intensity. In this way, you still bring the attention to the present. But then eventually you can also come to the understanding that, I mean, there is not something to be reached somewhere. And it's not a matter of making effort and more effort and more effort, and then somehow it will explode eventually. It's more a matter of sincerely bringing the attention to yourself, back home, here now, timeless, spaceless, and learn to open up to that and actually relax in that, not make an effort. So don't think that you are less sincere than previous because you are making less of this effort of wanting to get somewhere. But you can keep up that alertness, that when you become aware, I'm getting a bit too lazy in observing, and let the mind go and on and on and on in all these fields, there you can be alert and shoop, come back again. That doesn't mean you have to sit more hours, doesn't mean you have to do more difficult techniques. It simply means that you keep that intent of becoming aware when the attention is just going anywhere. And when you become aware that you are consequent at that moment, you bring it back. That you not postpone and think, first I'm doing this, and then I try to connect. But the moment you become aware how much the attention is going out there, that moment you just turn the attention 180 degrees and come back to the source. There we can work on that sincerity, and we can daily renew that sankalpa, that I want to remember, I want to be aware, I want to be alert. And if that intent is there, then the memory comes also back more often. And when we remember and see, attention is all over the place except here, there you just come back. That's the sincerity that is needed. Not the tremendous effort of trying to reach somewhere something.
Yeah, okay, thank you. You'll try to be more aware. You'll try to see myself more clearly. Usually in the morning, I'm kind of full of inspiration. I meditate every day in the morning, but evening time I become lazy. And the brain task meditating morning and evening 1 hour. Very simple spiritual path, actually. But evening time I'm lazy. That's why I'm thinking I'm not so sincerely.
Oh, of course, you will also be tired, more tired in the evening after doing a lot of activities. Right. Don't judge what you do in the evening, but you can try, even if you are taking it easy in the evening, that you do that also consciously. That, that you are also conscious that you're taking it easy and think it's all right, are okay with it, that you take it easy.
Okay, thank you. I will try.
Right. Hari Om, Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to talk? You're
Hello.
welcome. Hello. Hello.
Hello. So I wanted to ask about vasanas.
Vasanas.
Yes. So for example, if we want some things, for example, let's say if I want to eat a piece of cake.
Yeah.
So I observe that thought as it arises, and I have a physical desire to go and to do something. For example, eat this cake.
Yes.
And then it looks like there is choice. I can go and do this thing and eat this cake, or I can stop and stop myself from doing that. It requires more like effort.
Yes.
So who decides to go along with the asana and to stop, for example, because it looks like someone is deciding? Not always, but it's sometimes when you watch it.
Yeah. It's quite a tricky thing. Who is deciding that? Because if there is a cake and I just go and eat it without thinking, then the next time not to go and eat the cake is already much more difficult. Then it's happening already by itself, and the decision not to do it is more difficult. And the more I'm doing the same thing, the more difficult it is that decision of not going for it. So who is eventually coming around deciding maybe not going for every damn thing? It's like a wake-up call from the self that we feel I am a person. And then as a person, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I want to do this, I don't want to do that, because we have all these habits, we have all these vasanas. And when, if we are totally identified with it, then it just goes on and on and on, and there is not really any choice in it. It's even if we think as a person, I'm choosing whether to do this or not to do this, it's most of the time I'm simply pushed by my habits, by other forces that are there without being quite aware of it. But then somehow from deep within, from the self, comes sometimes an impulse, a wake-up call and say, hey, come on, detach from that identification. And with that wake-up call comes also the possibility to, in this situation now, choose, am I doing this or am I not doing that? We may choose, but then after that, in manifestation, it may still not happen according to our choice. Actually, often it will happen like this. You choose, and then the situation comes and we do the opposite. But still, basically, the impulse comes from yourself, like a wake-up call. Hey, come on, stop identifying yourself. Think that you are separate. You are the expression of what I am. It's like the self is calling out like this. And that call out gives the opportunity to become aware. Hey, I'm totally identified, and this and that is rather having the tendency to make it stronger. So I can decide not to do certain things that I usually do, and do certain things that I usually don't do. The habits are a strong force, and even if that decision is there, we will be pulled. So it's a tricky subject, whether we have choice at all, and then who is choosing. And you cannot say we have choice, and you cannot say we have no choice. Both is not totally correct. Because consciousness manifest has its creativity. So you are basically at the bottom of this whole story, and you design the whole story. But then the more the attention wanders away from the source, the more it's involved in the expression, and the smaller that freedom comes to decide. Because the smaller the bubble becomes where the consciousness is turning around. And if we decide to turn back, then that is an impulse that we are suddenly somehow becoming aware, because that impulse is always there from the self, from the consciousness, from the pure beingness of calling the attention back home. But then eventually, maybe if we are fed up enough running around in circles all the time, then being fed up in creating suffering all the time and longing to be without suffering, then we start to hear, turn back home. And once we start to hear that, then we start to have more power of deciding. Deciding, no, I'm not going to do that. So it's you yourself who decides from your essence, but then it's like in manifestation, to manifest again, that capacity to decide as a person is increasing the more we are opening up to the source, to the creativity of yourself. Now, instead of clarifying, I have more confused you.
So if we trying to decide, for example, this, as you said, there comes idea that I need to change and decide. It looks like it's some split personality. It looks like creating another one mind aspect of personality, which is against the first one.
Yes, that of course in the beginning the tendency is to do that, to get rid of our personality by creating another personality, a more pleasing, a more spiritual personality. But then when it will happen, but then again you can become aware, no, I'm doing again the same thing. And then more and more you become aware, no, I have to change certain things simply because they create always obstacles to naturally be. Not because I want to become a better person, but because I see the more I'm holding on to certain habits, the more that identification is being supported with the personality. And then that conviction that change is helpful is not because I think I should become holier a holier, a more spiritual person, but because I see as long as I'm holding on to certain habits, it's very difficult to detach from them.
Yeah. And it looks like, for example, one can watch this game. You have savasana, it rises, then if someone wants to resist it, it resists. And in this watching, it's like fighting two minds, which way it will be. And it's someone who watches. And sometimes it's even gets into a habit to watch the game.
Yeah.
Like it's a discussion going on constantly, and then you are into this watching of this game, and again you don't get it why it's and what of it. Looks like an endless process of deciding what to do.
Right.
Or shall we go this way or that way?
Right. Then you create the old personality and the new personality, and then the other one who is watching. then you are already three.
Okay, so endless process of creating personalities, right?
Right. But once you become aware that you're having the tendency to do so, then you can stop it and become aware that watching is there all the time. You don't have to create a watcher. If you create the witness, then after that again you have to witness the witness. If you create the personality, then you have to witness that personality, and then you have to witness the witness of the witness of the witness.
Okay.
But this observing is happening. It's there anyhow, all the time. And it's more that we learn to tune the attention into that silent part that is aware of all these activities.
Yeah.
And then you don't really recreate the new personality like that. And if you become aware of that observation that is happening, of that witnessing that is going on, then it's also from that standpoint easier to see things that are having the tendency to create always unnecessary tensions and disturbances. And from there, it's easier than that the intent, that sankalpa comes strong, that let it go, just not more to hold on to. It may still come back for quite some time, but then if it's not out of the motivation that you should become a better person and a more spiritual person, but simply because you become aware there are things that disturb me, that disturb from that natural state of ease, of peace, of joyousness, manifesting itself, expressing itself, and then it becomes easier to let go and to change. Not because you should be holier, but simply because it's natural.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
We have some more time. Is there anybody who would like to come in?
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Nelly. You are also out in the snow.
Yeah. Now it's not so frozen, but from the next week it will be minus 20 degrees. I heard.
I see.
Yeah. Now it's okay.
Now it's nice and warm there.
Yeah. Yes, it's very beautiful now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Werner, regarding to the book that Dayal asked about,
yeah,
I wanted to ask, I wonder about that experience of Larry that he described. How do you think it was an experience of enlightening or some glimpse, or but it looks very beautiful?
Right. You mean the author of that book, Somerset Maugham, or what is his
I
name?
mean, I mean Larry.
Larry
the
the
yes, in this book
hero
he described
in
his,
the book. Yeah.
yeah, he described his experience, how it happened.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, the author has experienced something that has inspired him to make these beautiful words that take the inspiration that you can borrow from it. The author had a certain inspiration, and from there came the story and also the experience of that enlightenment of Larry. There is an intensity about it, and just borrow that intensity to inspire yourself, and then don't stick too much to the descriptions and think and wonder, is this now enlightenment or is this not enlightenment? Is this the experience of enlightenment? I mean, these are all ideas again. And Somerset Maugham, he himself, he was clear when he was asked that the people were making too much of fuss about what he experienced with Ramana. That he certainly was inspired and opened his heart in the right direction. That's why he could write this beautiful story and write about that beautiful experience. But it's an inspiration. It's a piece of art, and deal with it like that. And don't think, is this now a proper description of enlightenment?
Okay.
There are all these enlightenment stories that are circulating in the many of the modern teachers. They have their enlightenment story and they give out their enlightenment story, and they always should be taken with a grain of salt. If you feel touched by it, if you feel inspired by it, then by all means use that inspiration to encourage you to go ahead, but don't fix yourself too much on what they are talking about, because then you are reducing yourself again and holding on to ideas and concepts and expectations. Oh, that's how it is. Oh, that's how it should be. So I'll try to gain that, try to do that.
Okay. I see. Yeah. This was a question about this book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Werner, and I have something else to ask.
Yes.
I thought again about fear, about this emotion, and I see sometimes I feel it very strong in myself, and I sometimes I think, why is this fear so strong? Because the reason can be very, very small and even funny, but this emotion is very strong. Yeah. And I remembered in my I began remember maybe something in my life happened, something awful, something bad, but I didn't find something like this. But this fear is like a threat of life. Yeah. And I thought maybe we accumulate some fears from previous manifestations, from previous lives. I don't know, because why why it comes so strong. I don't understand.
Well, I don't know about previous lives, whether the fear comes from there, but the fear is the fear of annihilation. And
Yeah.
something in you is scared because you become more and more conscious, and something in you is aware that if you continue like this, it will be annihilated, that the identification with the me personality, and doesn't want to give up. And one trick how to block this process is to create fear. To create fear that you shouldn't go any deeper, you shouldn't go any further. And then once this fear is there, it can also jump in any situation. But in a way, it's a good sign. That means you're going in the good direction. It means that your illusionary being, that aspect that has taken up an identification as if it was a being by itself, but it's simply really an expression of what you are. But that expression is afraid that it will be annihilated if you become more and more conscious. So fear is the reaction. You don't have to look for exotic reasons somewhere in the past, in the far past, but it's just that which is having quite control doesn't want to give up control. Being afraid, after that, it's not more there, or something is totally missing. But of course, it's totally false, this idea, because absolutely nothing is missing if we give up the false identification. Still, out of habit, somehow, it's again going in the same chapter that Leora started, that fear is there. If we are not creating the structure, then what is there? We cannot feel secure, we cannot feel hold on to anything. And the fear is there because we have been functioning like this, and somehow something in you feels that fears, knows it's crumbling down and fears it. And then once that fear is on the way, it can jump into any situation, and that you are afraid of any little thing.
Mm.
But don't be afraid of the fear. Don't be afraid of being afraid. If the fear comes, then okay, accept, all right, fear comes. And then you see what it is doing and relax in the fear, and then it stops to be a terrible experience.
Yes, I I try watching it, and
Yeah,
it's very yes, I understand what you say about the secure that this personality needs to have the secure, but we don't need it. I
don't need it
understand that.
at all.
Yes, I understand it in my mind. Yes, but inside when I feel this fear, some pictures come up. Maybe some terrible things,
Yeah.
maybe something from Middle Ages and some kinds of dying. I don't know. Well, something, yeah. But I can't say that I watch too much movies to to remember all these things. I don't know, but yes, it just come up. Yeah.
I mean, it's totally possible that you're tuning into such experiences that have happened when the fear comes, that it's tuning into things that are there still somewhere in subtle space as a memory. It doesn't matter whether it's your past or not your past. The past is there of all the beings, and you can tune into such experiences, but then it's a trick of the mind of holding on to and thinking, maybe it's coming from there, and somehow trying to create more substance to the fear and substance to the mechanism of locking yourself in. So don't let the pictures come, let the pictures come, and don't brood too much about what they mean. Obviously, they are pictures, they are connected with fear. But what the issue is that you learn to deal with fear and stop being afraid of fear and see it as what it is, an emotion that if we strengthen it through fear of the fear, or strengthen it by completely getting into being overwhelmed by it, then it's getting bigger and bigger, and then it's creating real problem. But if we learn not to make a fuss when fear comes and say, okay, fear is there, then it doesn't become bigger and bigger, and then it doesn't grow into a problem.
Yes, Werner. I see. I try to watch and then to let it go, to detach from it, because when I see all this, some kinds of violence and something like this, I understand that it can help me to remind myself that I'm not the body and no one is this. So to detach from it, because a lot of things, some unpleasant things can be done with body, with human's body. A lot of violence can be, and I just remind myself that it helps to remind that it doesn't touch deepest sense of oneself,
Right.
of nobody. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Okay. I just one thing I remember. It was in the park of attractions, amusement. Yeah. It was one attraction where people sit. They just sit and put on some gloves. Oh no, no gloves. Some how to say? I forget. Like this on ice. We put on.
Gloves.
No.
No.
Oh,
skates.
No, these we put on.
Oh, glasses.
Glasses. Yeah, glasses.
Yeah.
We put on. Yeah.
Yeah.
We put on glasses, and they were showed some terrible pictures or something, like they ride somewhere, like they push or fall somewhere. I don't know what else, but something terrible, I think, because the people, when this attraction finished, they were shaken, they were afraid.
Right.
And it was amazing to look from this side at them, because when they sit, nothing happened to them. Nobody hurt them. Nobody did nothing. Yeah, a little, maybe they shaked a little. Yeah, and that's all. But this picture, they do all this work, and
Yes.
I see that how it happens in our life.
Yes.
Yes, when I create some terrible pictures or thoughts, and that's all. All of this work is done. All these fears, come up, and all these emotions. Yeah, just this was. I remembered this.
Right.
This experience.
Actually,
Yes.
it's a very good example that, like these people who sat there, not being in danger at all, but they were experiencing all that danger from the stuff they saw, and perfectly right. what we are experiencing, all the terrible things that may happen or could happen, nothing is really going to touch what you are.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. It's the main thing that should be reminded all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Werner. Thank you very much.
This whole world is an amusement park. all these games,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Important to remember it. To remind all the time.
It's good to remember and go about it playfully without taking it so serious, huh?
Yes.
Right. All right.
Okay. Thank
Hari
you,
Om.
Werner. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.